What's that old saying? It's all criticism comes from the tragic result of unmet needs,
Mm.
right? I don't know where I heard that. Probably Rogan, probably some kind of quote meme somewhere. But like, I identify with that because like I had this big unmet need, and all I could do was criticize absolutely everything else, everybody else. I wasn't taking personal responsibility. I wasn't waking up and just attacking the day. I'd hit the alarm clock. I was, I mean, I was a skinny, lazy guy instead of a skinny, fat guy.
Mm.
Like the discipline wasn't in place. The grand vision about what I am and what I could be and how I could impact lives and how I could show up for other people. That wasn't there.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Drew Camp here, the founder of the Epic Dad Company, and thank you for hopping into this episode. We've got a jam-packed show for you guys, and my mission with this podcast and with the company is to help you level up as a dad and become the husband, man, and father you are called to be. So thanks for being here, and let's hop in. So today we have got on my good friend, Jake Blanchard. Jake is a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, a podcaster, and he's a great friend. I originally met Jake at a George Bryant marketing event out in Montana. And if you've ever been to a networking event, it's pretty often that you try to kick back and relax and maybe have a few beers and sleep in and just network and have a good time. But on the first morning of the event, I went down to the gym at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and there was one other person in the gym that was getting after it, and that was my good friend Jake Blanchard. So met him at the show, and immediately knew that we were going to hit it off. We were kind of eyeing each other in the gym, seeing who could work the hardest, and at some point in time, we decided to introduce ourselves to each other and have been good friends ever since. And Jake is a graduate of the Modern Day Night Project, which is a men's 75-hour crucible event put on by the likes of Bedros Keullian, Ray Kerr, Steve Eckert, and Matt Schneider. And during this episode, Jake and I talk about how just getting fit is not the final answer in showing up better as a father. We talk about the limiting beliefs that we all encounter as men. We talk about the importance of brotherhood and competition in our lives. And we also talk about how we need to adjust our priorities and focus areas based on our life circumstances. You guys are going to love this episode. This conversation is fire with Jake, and let's hop into the episode. Mr. Jake Blanchard, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
Dude, I'm excited to be here. We've been
Yeah,
talking about
man.
this for a long time.
Yeah, it's
So
been it's been months and months and months of you ignoring my DMs, and
there's
we
a lot.
finally got you here.
It wasn't malicious, but certainly, I lose track of some of these conversations. I think like anybody else. So no excuses.
No,
Uh,
man, I'm just
Glad
giving
to
you a
be
hard
here.
time, man. I'm super pumped to have you on. We're all busy, but glad to make it happen. Jake, for guys that don't know you, and we're gonna dive all into it, right? But would love for you to kind of give a brief bio and let people know who you are.
Yeah. So Jake Blanchard, man, like where do you begin? Just a kid that grew up in Louisiana and moved to Alaska and married my high school sweetheart and moved to Idaho and, started a life out here, a lot of bumps and journeys along the way. But what I do today is I own a management consulting firm. I help organizations with corporate strategy. I help them with project management and implementation of IT infrastructure. And I've got two kids. I got a 10-year-old. I've got an 8-year-old that I'm absolutely having a blast being a father and raising them. Certainly, the Epic Dad ecosystem. I'm excited to be here to kind of talk about, my perspective and approach to those things. But, overall, I'm a podcaster as well. Jake Blanchard podcast. I think I got about 150 episodes out there. Just been trucking along, trying to have interesting people like yourself on my show as well to share your knowledge, your insights, your experiences. And, I think we're all just trying to find a little bit of a voice and trying to add value to those people who take the time to listen. So that's the high levels, but happy to double click into, wherever the conversation goes.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's one of the best things about the internet, right? There's a lot of really bad stuff about the internet. But one of the good things is like you're in Idaho right now. I'm in Georgia. We can hop on, we can connect, we can have an awesome conversation, and hopefully people can be a fly on the wall and just get some perspective and some value from it. So But yeah, man, happy to have you here. And we met at George Bryant's event,
Yeah, we did.
which I want to say was 21, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah,
2021.
that was before Tedco was even a thing, man. That was like I had like the idea, the concept in my brain, you know. And then post that event kind of went all in, you know. And obviously we've seen it grow, you know, a bunch since then. It's nowhere near where it's going to be, but a lot of growth. And you know, man, that event was certainly a catalyst for it. And I remember you and I crossed paths, I think the first morning of the event.
In the gym,
Yeah,
baby.
at like 5 a.m. in the
In the
gym.
gym. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's
And,
not what 5 a.m. It was 3:30. No, I'm kidding.
yeah.
3:30 in the morning. We're beating Jocko up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, yeah, I mean, I saw you in the gym, you know, and I was like, all right, cool, I gotta get to know this cat. Anybody that's going to be disciplined enough to go to some event where you can very easily just be like, all right, let me get out of my routine, sleep in, you know, just relax. It's like, no, I'm like we're still getting after it. We're still staying disciplined and on the path, you know. So knew I wanted to get to know you at that event, man. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch you and your brand grow at a distance, watching the podcast take off as well. Like all great things, and your supplements are awesome, dude. Like I'm not not pandering. I just I like them. So like
Yeah.
good on you for something that's specifically designed for busy dads and people who don't want all that other crap
Yeah,
in their
for sure,
bodies.
man. Not a paid ad, you know, but I'll
Not a
shoot you
paid
over some.
ad.
I'll shoot you over some Paleo Post, man. It just launched last week, so
There we go, dude.
yeah, our protein. But yeah, man. So well, I wanted to bring you on just to kind of get your perspective, talk through your story, right? And I've heard it on other podcasts that you've been
Yeah,
on, and on your podcast as well. Of like, you know, right now you're showing up as a dad, as a husband, it probably in a way that you weren't a few years ago. And so I
yeah.
wanted to talk your story. What was life like kind of before you had this, this impactful moment of saying, I want to change. I know there is a change that needs to happen. And
Yeah.
then what did that transformation look like to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, let's no, that sounds awesome. I'll just kind of pick the story up from being about 17 years old. So I was in a rock band. Like good friends of mine.
Guitar, I'm assuming.
I'm a bass player.
Okay.
And so we would, get together at my buddy's house 2 or 3 days a week. We would jam. We had a bunch of original songs, and in the small town that I was living in Alaska, we put a show on about every couple of months, and we got a turnout, man. Like for a small band to have, 2 to 4 or 500 people sometimes. I mean, I don't remember the exact numbers, but we could fill a room, and I thought that that's what I was going to do. Um, I think at the same time, I was quietly. Maybe experimenting with some things, some substances that maybe I shouldn't have been. I think it's all a matter of perspective, but at that point in time, I was keeping it pretty close to my chest. And I just had started dating this gal. Her name's Megan. She's my wife today. We just celebrated 20 years of being together.
Congrats, man.
And for the first time, I had seen, hey, she's motivated and she's a good student and she's a great athlete. And, a lot of things that I was an okay student. I was all right. I was just doing enough to keep my parents off my back for the most part. But like she had a vision for the future. And, my vision up to that point was I'm going to tour around and play music, etc. And I started to go all in with her and understanding that at 17, 18 years old, she actually had quite a bit of wisdom, and that she wasn't going to put up with somebody who was going to bring in distracting behaviors. And so that was a lesson I learned very early that helped me catalyze at least getting to Idaho, going to Boise State, getting a degree. Some ups and downs along the way of kind of like finding myself, but I had enough in me to not have to learn those tough life lessons or like dropping out of college or those types of things. I figured it out, right? I figured out how to be a good student. I followed the blueprint of what people said. You go to college, you get the degree, you get the job. And that's what I did. I got a job at a hospital. I was working in the supply chain department. My undergraduate degrees in supply chain, enrolled in a master's program, was going to get after that, and eventually got my master's degree. So here I am grinding and working, and I'm putting all my time and energy and attention into my professional career. I think this is a story that a lot of people can relate to,
Hmm.
right? That you're grinding in one direction, and who you lose along the way tends to be yourself, right? So I identified as a human, as a musician, and somebody who deeply loved music. And then I put a pause on that and went all in on education. And I'm not going to, I didn't necessarily love it. I just saw that as a means to making some money and maybe being a dad one day, and being a husband that could help support my family. And I landed a dream contract in 2013, right? So I was able to quit my job, go all in as an independent consultant for the first time. I had a consulting firm, or this like vision of a consulting firm, when I was in college. My buddy's dad was a consultant. I was like, oh, you get to work on a lot of different problems, jump into different businesses. Like, I didn't care that a lot of these consultants are all gray hair consultants with like 30 years experience. I was like, I'm 21. I can be a consultant. Oddly enough, you put that intention out there. My first contract, I was a 1099. I was a contracted resource, and I was running it through an LLC before I became a full-time employee. So I had gotten a taste of like being the external guy in a business. I'm jumping around a little bit, but
No, no, it's funny you mentioned on consulting too. So that was my first gig out of college, outside of the military. So I went straight to the military for a few years, and then jumped into consulting for Deloitte, which is one of the big four.
right,
And I'll never forget, man. I mean, it was like, first client, like I'm in the room with like all these, 50, 60-year olds, and like here's me, like 26-year-old Drew, like trying to give my advice, on what to do.
right.
I'm like, who the hell am I? Like, why are they gonna listen to me?
Well, and you learn along the way that there's a
Hmm.
lot of proven frameworks and
Hmm.
just ways to distill information, and present and represent information in a way that organizations find value. And I was, though I wasn't overly interested in a lot of the things I learned in my formal education, I was really interested in problem solving, and always
Hmm.
kind of have been. So I land this contract that requires me to get on an airplane every week from Boise and fly to Los Angeles. So 2013, 2014, most of those 2 years, I would fly out on a Sunday. I'd fly back home on a Thursday. I did, I think, 47 or 48 weeks in 2013, flying down to Southern California. It was something like that. Oh, yeah, by the way, I had a kid that year,
Mm.
right? And so we tracked it into 2014. I think I saw my son 70 days his
Jeez.
first
Mm.
year, right? Well, and so then, this is not like, and I empathize with people who are, or at least sympathize to the best of my ability, of folks who are deployed in the military, or, have some kind of job that requires them to be away from their family, things that they signed up for that they don't necessarily control the location. I was opting into this lifestyle,
Mm.
right? That's always hard, dude. Like, it comes with a lot of guilt. It comes with a lot of doubt in what you're doing. And although the money was great and I needed it at the time in order to pay off some college loans and set my family up, I was really missing out. And it kind of spiraled me into a bit of a depression. So I had, I think, 6 or 9 months left on my contract, and I hung my hat up and said, hey, I cannot do this anymore. I can't be away from my family. This lifestyle is not sustainable for me. I was making a couple of efforts here and there to lose some weight, but I'd been packing it on because I was on per diem, and I would just go, and every night, dude, I was eating,
Yeah, LA tacos, man.
dude. Yeah, well, it wasn't even that. Like, I was going out and getting like a large triple pepperoni pizza and just crushing most of it like the second night I was in the hotel. Or
You
like,
gotta eat your feelings.
I was in LA. I was on like on the corner of like Pico and South Beverly, which is, walking distance to Beverly Hills. So like, I would walk in and go to, Sugarfish, or like all these various restaurants that are there. They're delicious. It's awesome food. But if you're not exercising and you're going out and you're just eating out every night, and you're just eating crap during the day, eating Skittles at your desk, and, just drinking Mountain Dews, like, what are you doing? So by the time 2014 came around, I might, when you're overweight, your weight kind of peaks. You're kind of fighting 10 or 15 pounds at the top range of your weight. So you get disgusted with yourself. You fight those 10 pounds, and you're not disciplined. Then you go put them back on, and then you go fight them again. Man, I was doing that for probably the next year or so, of just constantly being in a battle with between 225 and 240. And then it was I went to Alaska in the summer, and I ended up having a couple of photos. My brother lives up in Alaska. I grew up in Alaska. He's been up there for 20 something years now. I go visit him with my kids, and we've got a bunch of photos, and I didn't recognize me, dude. Like I really did not recognize who I was physically. And then I had a hard time recognizing who I was mentally through that. So like I always look at this picture. It's on my Instagram of just like I have a split of when I lost all the weight
Mm,
versus, when I had all the weight on. And it's like I didn't respect myself. I didn't understand who I was. I kind of felt like a shell of a person. I didn't feel confident as a father. I was embarrassed. Like I'd go to the playground and my kid would run around, and it wasn't like I was 500 pounds. It's just I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep
mm.
up with an 18-month-old because he wants to go hang on this or do that, and I just found myself being like, "Oh no, Dad's gonna go sit on the bench." And like, what do you mean, Dad's gonna sit on the bench? Dad's just going to watch you play by yourself. I'm going to sit here on the bench. And like, I was able to finally start taking a step back a little bit and understanding that there was an incongruency to the way that I was living. And so for some reason, one day I got up and I just started running. I ran a mile. I was absolutely out of breath. I think it probably took me 20 minutes, but I tried. And then I realized it wasn't that bad. So I got into running a little bit, and then got into some supplementation. I started like studying the world of supplements. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, like a lot of bro scientists like myself do. Stumbled onto his company On It and put an On It sticker on my laptop at work because that's was the new person I was identifying with, the protein taking, alpha brain taking type person. And a guy that I worked with looks at my On It sticker and he goes, "Hey, do you do jujitsu?" And I was like, I do not. I said,
Is
but I've heard
it
a lot.
is this still while you're on the contract?
So I'd started a new role. So this is 2015. I
Okay.
had taken a role, kind of closed the doors on my consulting firm. I was still taking little contracts here and there on the side, but I company that was a nonprofit in the healthcare IT space, and they needed somebody to run their patient engagement consulting side of the business. So I had some experience in that. I'd been working in healthcare for a while, and I just took it. It wasn't my dream job. It wasn't something that I loved doing. I was actually took a gigantic pay cut to do it. I mean, if you know what consultants make versus what happens when you go and become a full-time employee for some other organizations, I mean, I took a six-figure haircut,
Yeah.
which is painful when you got a young family or whatever. But I had to get balance. I had to come home, right? And so this guy looks at my laptop. He goes, "Hey, you do jujitsu?" And I was like, "No, but why would you say that?" He's like, On It, Joe Rogan, jujitsu. He's like, it's all connected. And he's like, "Why don't you come with me to jujitsu?" And I respected this guy, and I still do. I mean, have a lot of respect for him professionally. And his name's Matt. So Matt pulled me into um, jujitsu, and then I realized after getting absolutely nuked by like this 15 or 16-year-old kid the first day that I did not know my body, that even though that I could go out on a run, it meant absolutely nothing for protecting myself and my family. That I had done martial arts as a kid, and this was something that I enjoyed doing and had a little foundation of. And I was like, man, why don't I why don't I just go all in on this? Right. I identified as a musician once upon a time. That was something I wanted to do. Then I got this whole career professional trajectory, and that's where my whole mind was. And when I had enough time to sit down, when I solved the urgent problems of being able to pay the mortgage and put a little money away and pay off some of those college loans and like feel more comfortable in life, the second I sat with that, I was depressed, didn't know who I was, got way overweight. I got to do something different. I got to identify, I have to connect myself to an activity that's for me, that's for my family, for whatever. So I went all in, dude. I ended up losing, I got down to like 180 pounds. So I was about 60 pounds of weight loss somewhere in there. And then, I've kind of ramped it back, 15, 20 pounds over the years. But primarily from lifting and trying to be healthy. So I'm not walking around with six pack abs, but I feel relatively healthy. The problem was between 2015 and 2017, when I lost that weight, I was physically changing on the outside, but inside, I was suffering, man. Like I think that's the thing that you underestimate. Like you think that these physical changes are going to make you happy, but what I found was like it really started making me resentful of the world around me. Somehow, my wife who's doing her best to lead us through raising these children, I started to resent her. I started to like not appreciate or lead with gratitude for seeing all the great things that she does for us. I then, after 2 years of working this job and knowing that financially I could be making a lot more money, I started to resent myself. I also, as a young man, like I have a great relationship with my parents today, but as a young man, my mother operated with some emotional instability. Like it was a very, um, I know she loved me growing up. I know she really cared for me, and she tried her best to show that when she could. But also, man, she just had a switch and she'd go off the handle. And I think a lot of people can relate to that kind of childhood, which, certainly I had some scars that were reopened as I was going through my journey of parenthood, because what I had known and seen was not being patient. What I had known and seen was to yell and scream when you're not getting your way as an adult. And I was starting to do that as well. Right. I was finding myself so disconnected with the father that I wanted to be and living in so much shame with that I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, shit, I lost the weight. I have a hobby. That's what people tell you. Go lose some weight and get a hobby. Like life is going to be better. And it wasn't. It wasn't, because I was sitting there going, I don't like my situation that I'm in. I feel stuck and trapped. Like I was having, marriage problems at home. Like I'm not going to, I mean, we can certainly dive into that a little bit more if you want, but like, I think it's the usual suspects, right? Like physical intimacy, like just really wanting to be connected, going all in on the person you picked, right? Which is, sometimes we get married and we get settled into that 6, 7 years of being married. We forget to go all in on that person.
Mhm.
We forget to date your spouse. We forget to put those date nights on the calendar and show up for them and actually listen to them when they have something to say or something going on in their lives. I just checked out. Um, fast forward a little bit, it had been um 2018, 2019 now, and I'm just kind of going through the motions and starting to get really hollow inside and not wanting to participate in the day to day anymore. Like I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like putting on the mask when I go to work and pretending to be this happy go lucky consultant guy. I didn't feel like going to the gym anymore. I didn't feel like being a husband. I didn't feel like being a father. I didn't want to do the thing. I was exhausted by it. And I don't
Yeah.
know what it was, dude. I don't know if you can relate to it, but it's just a mindset that just feels like you're rotting.
Hmm. Yeah. I was going to ask kind of what is the reason behind that, right? I mean, it's, we try to find these areas to fill these gaps and voids we have, right? Like you talked about jujitsu and finding a hobby, right? Identifying as that, identifying as somebody that is in shape, identifying as somebody that is a provider, right? But these things aren't going to fill that void if we're not taking care of ourselves, like mentally, emotionally, and to your point too, right? I think a lot of it goes back to our childhood. These are things that I've gone through lately, the past couple of years, of kind of jumping into this entrepreneurship world, of these things kind of resurfacing, right? That
Yeah.
that you haven't seen in a while, and you're like, why do I think this way, right? Like what is going on in my mind? What are causing these thoughts? And so I think you have to do that work of really identifying where is the root cause, right? And a lot of times it goes back to things that happen in our childhood that we just haven't thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the operating system that you're running today,
Hmm.
right? And again, like the way that I look at it is that I don't harbor this like resentment for my parents needing to be something that they weren't. They were who they were. They
Hmm.
operated to the best knowledge of how to operate, and they were dealing with their own traumas. from their childhoods that were never resolved. They're just different generation from us, man. And fortunate for me to at least have had, varying perspectives, different mentors, people like, I went to counseling for a number of years in that time frame, 2015 to basically 2019, on and off, in order to kind of just unpack and understand how I feel. But it wasn't working for me. I
Mm-hmm.
needed something, I don't know, a little more aggressive, a little more meaningful, a little more like I needed to write a passage or like
Mm.
a personal crucible or to prove to myself that I was capable.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let me ask you this. What did your peer group look like at the time, right? I mean, you obviously had jujitsu,
yeah,
and stuff like that, right? But I think if and this is something I struggle with as well, is, if we don't have that peer group where we can really push ourselves with each other, push each other, have these real conversations, right? Like it seems like we're kind of just flying solo and trying to be that lone wolf, like whether we want to or not, right? But
yeah.
really what we need is like brotherhood, camaraderie, things that if you look back thousands of years, right? That's what men need, and that's where we thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the friend group that I had then is, I think, largely the same friend group that I have now. People that I had gone to college with, and that I care a lot for. And here's the thing: those people are in my life in a really meaningful way, right? In my kids' life in a really meaningful way. But you touch on a point, like there's certain people like myself that need to feel pushed, that need to feel kind of, I don't want to say like shame, but like, hey, you're not going to one up me, dude. Like if you and I go to the gym and we're working out, like
Yeah.
besides my limitation, like I've got some knee problems and some stuff like that. So I'm not going to try to blow out my knees with you. But if we're lifting, like, okay, let's
Yeah, you,
go, dude.
you do 250, I'm doing 255,
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
just it is what it is,
100% jujitsu. Like, let's do the rounds, man. Like I want to be the last guy on the mat. Right. I want to,
Mm,
iron sharpens iron, but like, here's my blade, baby. Like, let's go. Like, and deep down, I think that was that unmet need.
mm,
What's that old saying? It's all criticism comes from the tragic result of unmet needs,
mm,
right? I don't know where I heard that. Probably Rogan, probably some kind of quote meme somewhere. But like I identify with that because like I had this big unmet need, and all I could do was criticize absolutely everything else, everybody else. I wasn't taking personal responsibility. I wasn't waking up and just attacking the day. I'd hit the alarm clock. I was, I mean, I was a skinny, lazy guy instead of a skinny, fat guy.
mm,
Like the discipline wasn't in place. The grand vision about what I am and what I could be and how I could impact lives and how I could show up for other people, that wasn't there. Right. And so, as you sit with that for a little bit, you realize that, you took a pill, which, in this case was jujitsu and lifting some weights and doing some running, and it didn't fix shit. You're still broken inside. So, oddly enough, a guy that I was doing jujitsu with, guy by the name of Matt Schneider, he,
yep. I've had Matt on the podcast.
okay. Yeah. So, Matt was, still a friend. Matt was, he lives in Boise, and he goes, hey, I'm moving to Southern California, go work for this guy named Bedros Keullian and some of his businesses, and he's got some cool things cooking. Stay tuned. And I was like, sweet, man. So about 4 months later, I see this post, just this random Facebook post on his deal. And at the time I didn't know who Bedros was. At the time I didn't know who Ray Care was. I didn't know, some of these folks that I came to know pretty well. And I was like, hey, I got 2 spots left for this 75-hour endurance mastermind type program. Who's in? And I reached out to him. I said, dude, I'm in. Like, I don't care what it is. You're involved in it. Whatever. I need something. 75 hours sounds like a significant block of hours. Like, let's go.
Mm.
So got signed up, and the quitter inside of me tried to talk myself out of going to that program multiple times.
Mm.
And I understood it to be a physically grueling 75 hours. So I was getting myself in the best shape possible. Um, but I was trying to quit on myself mentally nonstop. And this particular program is called the Modern Day Night Project. I think they're about to kick off class 19 in the next month or two. And then I'm actually going down in October to help with class 20. It's something that I've been able to do about once a year, is go support some of the classes that are going through. But this was the first class of the Modern Day Night Project, man. They send us
Oh.
this long list of like all this stuff that we need to bring. It's all bullshit because it was like shirts and shorts and like we're gonna beat the hell out of you. In the way that it was kind of framed as like kind of chemotherapy for your brain, right? Like if we can break you down physically and mentally to the point of exhaustion, if we can force you to lose control, like you're not in control anymore, you're ours. You will work out when we tell you to work out. You'll wake up when we tell you to wake up. You'll eat when we tell you to eat. You'll do what we tell you to do for 75 hours. And if you make it on the other side, here's your axe, right? Essentially is, can you do it? Can you make it? Can you endure? And man, I was one of those people. I really wanted to quit a handful of times through that experience. It was hard. It was grueling. It forces you to let go of all of the anchors that your bullshit is attached to. And then eventually, if you're willing, if you do the work, if you take the time, it allows you to start organizing and thinking about really what's important and how you show up and who you are. And so, I'm happy to talk through the MDK experience, but man, from 2019 to now, going through that experience, having a crucible, having this event to anchor against, my life has been, at least inside my body, drastically different
Hmm.
in the way I think about things, the way I process things, and the way I show up.
Yeah, I want to dive into that for sure, and get some more information about it. But the thing that you said right there that I want to really pull a thread on is you said that you wanted to quit multiple times even before you got started,
Yeah.
right? And I think once we and I'll talk a little bit about my experience as well with a couple things around that. But like, once we make that decision, sometimes we had that, right? We had these limiting beliefs of like, oh shit, can I actually do this, right? Or like, oh shit, like, am I gonna fail? Or in a lot of people's cases, which I think we don't think about, is like, oh shit, what if I actually succeed here? Like, what does that
Mhm.
mean, right? Like, then I'm gonna have to show up as a different person. Am I comfortable with that? So I want to kind of talk through what were some of those thoughts that were going through that were causing you to think, maybe this isn't the right decision for me.
Yeah. So first off, I have a couple of knee injuries.
Mm.
Right. I was competing in jujitsu, partially torn ACL. I had torn my meniscus, like just nagging knee injuries. So the first thing that I anchored against was like, I have this physical limitation and I'm going to have to opt out because I won't be able to push myself through this with, what's going on there. Oddly enough, it wasn't my knees that really messed with me as much as it was my shoulder. Um, I ended up like 15 hours in, I fell forward and landed on the back of my shoulder. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it
Uh,
just kind of,
yeah.
it kind of just
So
pulled,
that's
it kind
so
of just
funny. No, go
pulled
ahead. Go
everything. No, I said
ahead.
it just kind of pulled everything forward for the entire project experience. So I was fortunate enough that they actually KT taped it back a little bit for me, so I could do quite a few things. But it was just sitting there, and for the next 3 or 4 months after I got back from the project, I had to
Yeah,
PT it.
it's funny you mentioned shoulder. So I made a post on social media this week of like, hey, I tore my AC joint in my shoulder running, and then I was like, is this what late 30s looks like? Because I was running, but like, it's a joke. Like I did kind of the same thing. So I'm still in the army. I'm in the National Guard. I'm a company commander right now, and so I make my guys go out and do PT. When we go in the morning. 1 week in a month, and I usually let our PLs, who are kind of like junior officers, like come up with the training plan. They run it. I kind of just supervise. Um, and so we were doing about a 2 mile run or so, just kind of like a light run, and then we were going to do hill sprints up this hill. It's on concrete, it's on asphalt, but it's a pretty lengthy hill. It's probably like 150 yards or so. It's like a long hill. Um, and I'm in pretty good shape. I'd say out of our company, I'm like probably in, if not the best shape, one of the top two or three. And so we were doing hill sprints, and I was just like smoking everybody. And I'm a little bit older than everybody else in the Army usually, right? I'm 37. The average age of our company is probably like, 22 or something, right? And so the old guys like smoking everybody. And we had done 3 or 4. I started seeing some sad faces. They didn't want to run anymore. So I was like, all right, hey, if anybody beats me, we're done. So like this little 19-year-old cat pops up and he's like, all right, let's go. And so we take off, and immediately I regretted the decision because it was obvious that he had just been like, holding back. So now he's like full sprint, and I'm like, oh shit, like it's on. I can't let this guy beat me. And so we're going up the hill, we're neck and neck, and like we're getting towards the finish line, and like it's just pure panic in my brain. Like, no, dude, I got to beat this guy. And so I lunge like towards the finish line and trip and fall, and same thing. I do like a barrel roll and just like right on the back of my shoulder. And so I actually have to go get an MRI today to take a look at the damage. But yeah, so definitely aware of the shoulder injury. And it's funny, like the very first thing I thought was just like, man, that's karma right there for sure.
Oh,
Like immediate
100%.
karma.
100%. Hey, sometimes when you pound your chest, the world will oblige you,
That's
right?
right.
Like
Yeah.
it'll send you all you can take for sure. Um, yeah, where were we? I was
Yeah, just talking about the kind of some of the limiting beliefs, right? Going into that, and you talked
yeah.
about some of the previous injuries. I'd love to know from a mental perspective, though. Were there
Yeah.
any limiting beliefs there?
Oh, 100%, man. I was pretty mentally weak as a person. I really, although I was going down to the gym and stuff like that, like once adversity was presented, my default was just to point fingers and blame and to like say no and like to walk away from it. I just, it's so funny to look back now because I like laugh at those people, like I want to help them, of course, but like that whole mindset of just like, you know, hey, let's go do something hard. No, I can't. I could never do that. Like ice baths is the one when I tell people, hey, come over, dude. I got an ice bath. Like I've been doing it since the project, right? On and off. I take a couple months off here and there, but then I rediscover it just like anything else. Invite people over. Hey, let's do this ice bath. Let's do this
Mhm.
thing. No, I could never. I could not ever. It's like, yeah, no, you totally could. You totally could just relax and sit in this cold water and just push through and understand what's happening to your body, from a physical standpoint and some of the benefits. And you could totally do it. Not a big deal. People have been doing it since the beginning of time. Like you're fine. But when you have that blocker up, and that's what I was doing. Like, well, what if someone yells at me? What if I get angry back? What if I want to punch them? What if I want to like? It's just a lot of this like what ifs and like this illusion that I would be in control in some way, shape, or form when I got there. And dude, the second the program started, I realized I was looking around, and most of the guys there were I would consider more physically fit than me. I'd say I was probably in the bottom four as far as physical fitness and a bunch of gym owners. One guy's a former or no, a current like amateur professional like wrestler, you know, like WWE style. And so like there's just some mutants that are in there, and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm in the bottom of the pack. And then we got to lift all this heavy weights and run around, and I'm like, I just spent the whole time instead of saying I am who I am and I'm going to show up the best that I can for absolutely everything and get through this 1 minute at a time. I would just sit there and think about all the unknowns,
Mm.
while I was there or even before I got there. Like, what's it going to be like? What's the food going to be like? Like, am I going to get some sleep? Like, when should I wear this shirt? Like, it was that kind of stuff. Like, what if they don't like me? And then when you get there, none of that matters, dude. I went straight like, oh, snap. Um, I was trying to, this is kind of an embarrassing moment, but like, there was this point in time where I had more left in the tank, but I was pretending that I didn't.
Mm.
And so they were trying to get it, and some of these PTs, they were absolutely destroying us, right? And I got my legs out and I've got, they go, okay, Blanchard, like, oh, these push ups are so hard for you because your shoulder and all this stuff. Here, they took a half filled 5-gallon bucket of water, like, kicked my legs out. So I'm laying on my back, my legs come up like you're kind of doing like bicycle, not
Mm.
bicycle. What do you
Flutter
call these?
kicks. Flutter
Flutter
kicks.
kicks, right?
Yeah.
But you put your legs straight out, they balance it on you and say, okay, you got to do a minute. It's 20 something pounds. And it's, hey, if you're curious, go ahead and do that. It feels like a lot, especially as close as it is to your feet. And I dropped that bucket 3 times. And everybody in my group was punished as a
Mm.
result of my inability to perform physically. And I was so worried about making all the faces and the contortions and showing how much this was paining me, as opposed to zeroing in and just focusing on the task and getting it done. And I was costing people because I was being selfish, because I just wanted to show everybody how hard this was for me. And like, I laugh at that now, but like in the moment, like those were all the thoughts that were going through my head. And then of course that leads into, hey, you're not cut out for this. You're a quitter. You should get out of here, whatever. Um, and then after I was able to get it done on the fourth time. So by the way, I failed at a minute. I, you know, 3 other times, but I was able to do it the fourth time.
Mm.
So it couldn't have been that bad. Right. And afterwards, like, the if anyone knows who Bedros Keullian is, he doesn't have to. Sometimes it says a lot, but sometimes he doesn't have to say much at all. And he looks over at me and he goes, "Hey Blanchard." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "It'd probably be better if you just did it." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, if you just stop trying to show everybody how much you're persevering, and you just did it, it'd probably be better for you." And that was one of my first moments that I was like, "Oh, like I get what you're saying now. Like just don't try to exist in this life showing everybody how heavy the bag you're carrying is,"
Mm.
which is something that I was doing all the time, trying to get my wife to see how hard I'm working, trying to get, my friends to understand how smart I am, trying to like stop trying to do that as much and just try to do the work. And, it was a little bit of an epiphany, but, I had a couple other points and times across that project that, you feel like you're going to quit. But overall, a wonderful experience for me. And one of the first 10 people to get out of that program, which was,
Yeah.
pretty proud of.
All right, guys, pausing the episode for just 1 second with Jake. If you notice a common theme throughout the show with Jake, we talk about the importance of community. We talk about the importance of brotherhood, a tribe, of having a team that can push us and challenge us to become the best versions of ourselves. Most of us men, most of us dads, try to live life as a lone wolf, trying to shoulder the entire burden ourselves, and that is a losing strategy. So if you do not have a tribe of men that are in your corner, a tribe of absolute savage dads that want to see you win, then I would like to invite you to join our free online community called the Epic Dad Crew. And inside the crew, you're going to get access not only to community, you'll get access to resources, get access to courses, to content, to monthly community calls, to workout programs, to everything that you need to start leveling up and becoming the husband, father, man you are called to be. You will find it inside of the Epic Dad Crew. I've got a link in the description of this show for you to hop in 100% free and start changing your life as a father. And we will see you inside the crew. Yeah, I mean it takes me back to a couple experiences I've had in the military, right? And
Yeah.
the first one, basic training, right? And the military's changed quite a bit, right, since 2010 and prior. So I don't know if basic is as tough as it was, but it's designed to be challenging, right? And the whole point behind it is we are trying to break down who you currently are, right? And then build you up into something new. Like that is what basic training is designed to be, right? Because you're taking all these kids from off the street, they've got no military experience. And the first 3 to 4 weeks of that, you're not learning a lot, right? You are just getting broken down. Like you're getting beaten down all the time. You're not making any decisions, like they own you. And there's a reason behind all the chaos. And it is to break you down physically, mentally, emotionally, to where you're able then to accept feedback and to be coached into something different. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned in something like that. And one of the biggest ones I think is that it's all done as a group, right? Because you can do all of this work yourself, and it can have a positive impact on you. But when you're in a group setting, and people are relying on you, it just creates, a different experience, right? And to know like your position you were in with the flutter kicks and holding it right is like, hey, I know if I don't give my best effort and don't do this, like the five guys next to me are going to get punished, right? And so having that group setting is just huge to know that like I need to give my all out effort, not just for myself, but it's going to bring the group up as well by doing it. So that's just one experience. And then same thing with when I commissioned, OCS. What was difficult as well. It was a kind of 8 weeks going straight through, and same type of lessons, right? But just kind of at a different level for officers. But again, it's that group setting, I think, is you build that kind of bond and brotherhood, and knowing that like I can push through pain, I can push through discomfort when somebody else is involved, a lot more than I can do if it's just me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even taking a step back further, it's like I admire um folks who, like yourself, made the decision to go into the military. The military probably would have been a good place for me to go. Right? The path that you took as far as like officer training, etc., like I'm I think I'm built for that in a way, or at least reflecting who I am now and who I was then. Um there are people out there like me that the way that you're built, you need adversity in order to really shine. Let
Mm-hmm.
that shine through. Something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe there's people that can get up, and I don't know these people as well, but like maybe there's people that can get up. They don't have to face adversity in their life, and they can just operate awesome. Like good for them,
Mm-hmm.
man. If you're listening and that's one of you, or if that's your thing, like you just get it, and you're super happy and super motivated, and you can just dive into life without having to like go fight that battle between your ears. I love that for you. But for me, like I had to have something. And I think there's a lot of men out there that are suffering because they're not doing hard stuff. I mean, you brought
Mm-hmm.
up earlier, like, what's your friend group look like? Um, those people should be pushing you. If you're one of those people, you have to be in one of those groups. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be in one of those things where somebody calls up and goes, "Hey, I'm doing a 20-mile ruck.
Yeah,
Get your
let's
shit."
go.
Yeah, get your shit. Like, not do you want to go? Get your shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
come on. Like, what do you got to move around today to make that happen? Like, okay, we schedule it next week. That's fine. I'll see you there. 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. You got to have people like that in your life that push you in a wild way. If you're wired like me, and probably like you as well, like you like that in people. You
Mm-hmm.
respect that in people when they bring that into your ecosystem and say, "Can we? Might we? Should we? Like, let's go. Let's go do something bigger and better and funner." And really, I didn't have a lot of that coming in. And after the project, I have gravitated toward people that bring those types of things in my life. Maybe I don't hang out with them every weekend or whatever, but there are savages. And I just worked out with one of them this morning, a guy named Jonathan, who runs the gym here in town. I'd been cheating on my leg days. I've been trying to get back into it. I make a lot of excuses, even today, about my knee, because I know what it's like to get excited and then to hurt myself again. Right. But I'm feeling good right now. So I reach out to him. I know Wednesday's leg day. And I go, "Hey, when you working out?" He goes, 6 a.m. I said, "Awesome." I show up. He put us through it this morning. What a win. What a win
Mm-hmm.
to have somebody like Jonathan in my life to be able to just push me when I need a little push. And now I'm riding that wave all day. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have those people in your ecosystem, or if you haven't taken the time to contemplate adversity, um, yeah, sometimes you just need something.
Yeah. And I think like going back to like being in that environment, right? Like for guys like you, and I'm sure a lot of the guys listening, like I go back to like basic training. I go back to offshore candidate school. I go back to these kind of like events that the Army put on for me where I performed and excelled at like the highest level, right? So
Yeah.
like I got, soldier of the cycle for basic training, like the honor grad. I got like honor grad for offshore candidate school. I got honor grad for the basic officer leadership course, right? And it's like I find these times of like when I am in adversity and when I'm in a group, like I rise to meet that occasion and that challenge. So now for me, it's trying to formulate that into my everyday life, right? Like how can I make that environment show up in regular day life? And it's something I struggle with, right? And I think it goes back again to that peer group like we're talking about is, hey, how can you surround yourself with guys that are going to challenge you on a day-to-day basis, when most of us are just living in this silo, as lone wolves. And I think if you are that type of person, then you can go find something, or you can be that guy, right? You can be the one that's texting your friend and saying, "Hey, we're going for a 20-mile ruck. Let's go."
Yeah.
So you can't just look for it. Like sometimes you're the one that has to create it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find myself in that position for other guys as well. It's just trying to trying to bring in something fun and interesting for us to do. I think I think this conversation makes me want to do that right now, dude. Like I'm thinking about 3 or 4 guys I want to reach out to and say, hey, let's go do something hard. So yeah, but I think, when I go back to the project, what it showed me the most was that I had so much more to offer from the standpoint of just showing up and just doing the work and just figuring it out and betting on myself. And that's something that I wasn't doing, right? With those limiting beliefs and with the, little vices that were creeping into my life and with the, operating from this place of like scarcity, or that everything in the world is meant to hurt me right now. And that, everything my wife does is wrong, or whatever it was, realizing that I need to shed that skin. I can be whoever I want to be when I wake up every single day. Like, what a gift that is. You go to sleep and you wake up the next morning. And if you choose, you can say, I'm Jake Blanchard, X, Y, and Z. Like, this is who I am. And I may not have achieved all of these things to prove to myself today that I am that person, but I believe that I am that person right now. I will be that person if I do these types of things and organize my life in this way. And the more consistent I am, the faster I'll get to that point in time. The more that I'll prove to myself that I'm capable of being someone worthy of my own trust.
Mm.
Right. And so, all the broken promises that I was making to myself for years about, I'm going to restart my consulting firm, or like, hey, I'm going to, show up better as a husband and father. And I'm just going to love my wife and love my kids in a more intentional way. And I'm going to show up with patience. Instead of saying Jake is a guy who doesn't have patience, Jake is a guy that has patience. What's the harm in just believing that about yourself?
Mm. Mm.
What's the harm in believing that? Like when you flip the script and you self-author, as Jordan Peterson calls it, like in that way, I'm self-authoring. I'm saying this is who I am. This is who I aspire to be. This is how I intend to show up. The project gives you kind of like a mantra, or it gives you like a creed, which is really important to the guys that get through that. We all learn it as we're going through it. And when you get on the other side, I'll share, the first two lines of that, which
Mm-hmm.
is I'm a man of my word. I make a promise and I keep it. Those are just the first two lines, base level. Why are there the first two things? Because if your word isn't there, and if you can't keep promises, you can't keep promises to yourself, you can't keep promises to your friends. If your word means nothing, then you'll fall back into the same cycle of everything that you had just come from. And so, like, for me, I anchored into that and I said, okay, like, how can I prove to myself that I'm a different person? Well, I got to be more consistent. I got to show up on a regular basis. I actually have to try to have some patience. And then the journey's long. Dude, I did the project in 2019, like pre-COVID. What's that? Almost 5 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I've had cycles where I just suck. And I forgive myself and I understand where I'm at and I have the tools to fix it now. Like I went to a place that just showed me like, hey, all you really have to do is do hard things, stop lying to yourself, stop overcommitting, reprioritize to what's important. And in the project, like faith, fitness, family, finance, right? What's important to you? Take all the fluff out and just restart. Just just say, okay, you don't have to declare emotional bankruptcy or anything big or whatever, but you just go, things are tough right now. I'm incongruent with the person that I believe that I am. I'm going to stop the line for a moment. I'm going to take inventory. I'm going to be critical of myself in a loving way. I'm going to reprioritize the things that are there. I'm going to put my family first. Date nights with the wife, date nights with the kids. Why, what am I not getting in my life right now that I need in order to feel like the person that I believe that I am? Quick reorganization, own the calendar, do the things that are on the calendar. Don't lie to yourself. If you're going to work out at 6, go work out at 6. Right. And so anytime that I'm out of balance, it's because I have lied to myself on my calendar and have built these behaviors in which I've kind of broken some trust. And I think that's one of the most important things anybody
Mhm.
can walk away from these types of conversations is like, I strongly believe that your venture through the military has so much to do with your ability to trust yourself, right? Trust who you are, trust what you're capable of in the moment, trust the teachings that they give you on a regular basis, trust the men that are around you. Like, what a gift it is to be in an ecosystem or a subculture of trust. And for me, I didn't have a ton of that. And so now I trust myself. I love myself. I believe in myself. I want to do great things. And again, it was a great opportunity for me to catalyze that.
Yeah, so I was writing as you were talking, and I do that on a lot of podcasts because I think these conversations are for me just as much as they are for the guys
I do
listening. You know,
same thing with me,
uh,
brother. That's the Jake
and
Blanchard podcast has been a psyop for just Jake trying to get better
right,
with people
I
like you.
know. Just let other people listen. You know, but I wrote down, I'm a man of my word, and I'm a man that keeps his promises.
Yeah,
That's huge. Like we have this thing inside the Epic Dad company called the Epic Dad Framework. And it's 6 pillars, and it's something we kind of put out, as content, and we've got all kinds of free resources. If you guys want it, just DM me. But the first thing that we have is identity and values is the first pillar, and I think it's so core to that we craft that identity of who we are, right, and who we want to become. I think we get so busy as dads, right? Especially with young children, and mine are young. Maybe when they get older, I'll be just as busy. I'm sure I will. But my frame of reference is young kids. Get so busy, right, with day-to-day life that like we don't take the time to sit down and think about who we are, like what is actually important to us and where we want to go, what does our vision look like, and are we living congruently with that? Like we just don't take the time to do it. And so that's one of the first exercises we have guys walk through is you need to craft that identity. Is like when you die, like what is written on your tombstone? What is important to
yeah,
you, right? And I'm going to add this to my mantra that I have, that I'm a man of my word and I'm a man that keeps his promises. So
yep,
thank you for that, man. That's going in the Rolodex.
yeah. I know it's funny. They the what you just said, like what you do in your life in between the day that you're born and the day you die, like in the project. And I don't know where this comes from. They call that the dash, right? That might be a
Mm-hmm.
military term. That might be whatever. I don't know where the genesis of some of these things are, but on your tombstone, there's the
Yep.
day you're
That's all
born
you
and
have.
the day you
Mm-hmm.
die, and all you have is that dash in between. And I mean, that's humbling, right? Because what'd you do with it?
Mm.
Like, what did you do with it? Like, I get so scared today with all this technology that's coming out, these these Apple Pro glasses and the way that we integrate technology with like our phones and just our lives and all these things. And it's like, I'm sure people are going to find happiness in a life that way. It's not for me, like to be really fully integrated with. I hate how much I'm on technology today. I feel like I'm wasting my life today scrolling through social media posts, or like when I don't catch myself. That's my big
Mm-hmm.
challenge I'm working through right now, is just putting the damn phone down, because it's got such a hold on me, because I do a lot of work on the phone. I do a lot of bits. So it's in my hands all the time. And like when I'm not disciplined with my phone, dude, that depression seeks in, like that's all those same feelings I was talking about earlier, of like needing to stop the line and be like, what is my relationship with this piece of technology that most people can't be, 10 feet from? Like, what are we doing? Is this the catalyst for happiness? Is this us maximizing our time and potential on this planet? And is it convenient? Yes. Right? Are we able to create streams of revenue and be able to share and communicate with the world on it? Oh my gosh, absolutely. What a gift that is. But every convenience comes with inconveniences. And I'm seeing kids, my kids' friends, some of them, oh, dude, they get pulled into those things. They
Mm-hmm.
have behavioral and emotional issues related to technology at very young ages. If these things are not in their presence, or if it's not fully charged, oh, it's not charged. It's not. Oh, yeah, plug it in. Come back in an hour. Like I don't know what to tell you, but like, um, sorry, I'm going off on a rant here, but like, I fear for all of us if we don't take the time to contemplate what a life well lived is. And I'm somebody who's intentional about it, and I'm still struggling with living up to my expectations of a life well lived. And I can't imagine what it's like for somebody who's just blind to the internal dialogue.
Mm, mm. Yeah, the phone stuff. I'd love to get your perspective. Your kids are a little bit older than mine.
Yeah.
But
10 and 8.
yeah, we're like no phones until you're 16. That's pretty
Yeah.
much. But I don't know. Like we see, like some of my 7 year olds friends like have a phone now, and I'm like, you're 7. Like what in the world do you need a phone for? It's crazy, man. But I mean, and there's all kinds of studies coming out about social media and the negative effects on kids and mental health and I don't know, like part of me thinks like I want to eat my kids from that, but then part of that also is, well, that is what the world is, right? And so how do I teach them to to manage that in a healthy way?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah. This has been our approach, and this is not by any means what I think is maybe the best. There's probably better approaches, but when my wife and I, well, one, I think about this a lot. I mean, my podcast logo, if you go out and look at it, one side's a stoic, one side's this like futuristic Terminator face with grenade teeth. I'm all about like the thoughtful integration of technology into our
Mm,
lives, but by no means am I an expert in the space. I'm just curious. Um, we've told our kids that we are not going to demonize technology in our house. The world in which they live in has computers and iPads and phones. And it's important for us to integrate those in their lives in a way where they don't feel left out. They don't
mm.
feel like the oddball. Because what's going to happen is just like anything else, if you keep that away from your kids, like hold them away at bay and
Yeah,
don't help them
mm.
understand at an early age, when they have autonomy,
Oh yeah, they're gonna go crazy with it. Same thing with like with kids that like were never able to drink, right? They
yeah,
get to college and just bangers every weekend.
100%. So like, and that was the scaffolding that the argument, the alcohol argument that we actually use with kids. It's like any of these vices. It's like we want to talk about what it is and what it isn't. Like, so my kid has a Nintendo Switch, and we talk about what his job or his role is in the house during the week, and then which is no Switch in the morning, no Switch in the evenings during the weekdays. My kids go to school 4 days a week. We're all home as a family on Fridays. Um, and it's like, okay, hey, Friday, take some time. Play the Switch. Saturday, play the Switch. Sunday morning, you can play a little Switch. Sunday afternoon comes, afternoon, nope, no more devices, no more anything like that, right? So it's like, here's some periods of times that you can play. I watch it on my phone. I don't give him a limit. I have a little thing that pops up after an hour or two like coming up. If he's playing more than 4 hours a week, we talk. I go, hey man, like let's talk about how you're spending your time. Let's talk about, what else did you accomplish? Like, have you noticed your room's not clean? There's like this Fortnite helping you clean your room. Like, let's talk about those things. And we just try to, because we don't let them have phones and because they don't have iPads, they have those like little Amazon like kid ones,
Yeah.
which is actually starting to become like a point of contention in the house because all their friends, dude, it's just like the elf on the shelf. It's just like anything
Yeah,
else.
we don't
Like,
do Elf on the Shelf, man. Nope, not
bro,
in the
good
Hughes
on
household.
you. Good on you. I was hoping this year was my last year. It looks like I brought my son knows, my daughter doesn't yet. So it's like I'm in this like catch 22 where it's just
Yeah.
like,
We, we
can I get this creepy little thing out of my house, please?
yeah. My wife and I had the same
Oh,
discussion as well. Like, I think if they weren't in public school and we didn't think they would ruin it for other kids, like we would have had the discussion already. It's
yeah,
so funny. My 7 year old this year for Christmas, she still believes in Santa Claus. If you have kids and they're listening, shut it off. All right. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But she still believes in Santa, and I forget what it was. Like we're telling her something about lying. Like she lied to us, right? And so we're having a conversation about lying and
yeah.
reason not to. And she goes, "Well, is Santa Claus real?" and like straight to my face, and I was just like, "Oh my god." And we were about to break it right there, but yeah, it was like it was a great point, right? She was like, "Well, I'm not supposed to lie, like and you're
Yeah.
not supposed to lie," and I was just like, "Shit," like you're right, like and it's just like hit me right in the face.
Well,
So,
that's the thing. Like there's so much hypocrisy in the world
mm,
that we live in, right? What do they say? They say society forgives criminals, not hypocrites,
mm,
right? So we got to live with that, right? Anytime that you're lying to your kids, anytime that you're telling them stay off of technology, and they see you
mm,
on technology, they know. They know
mm,
what's going on with that. They know that you're not disciplined in that way. They know that you're telling them to do something different, just like don't smoke cigarettes while you're smoking cigarettes, right? Like that just doesn't work. And so, my wife and I try to be really mindful, specifically the technology piece of it, and saying, okay, how do we make sure that they are laggard adopters at their age level? That is my intention, right? If you look at the adoption curve, you're going to have early adopters, then you'll have kind of everybody else that that 30 to 70%. And then that laggard's like kind of the long tail of people that are slow to adopt technology. So we want to be closer to that laggard at every age group. So if everybody's getting phones, awesome. Once that tipping point, 60, 70, 80%, we'll go, okay, it's probably about time. But we're intentionally late adopters of technology with them. And, that's so far, that's worked pretty well because what they do is they bang on our doors a little bit and they go, hey, this is something that's going on. Hey, I'm feeling left out. Hey, I'm interested in doing this. Okay, let's spend weeks, sometimes months, talking about what this piece of technology is. Let's talk about how we don't get addicted to these things and how we incorporate it in our life. How would you use it if you had it? Right? Asking that question back of them. Like my son in the Switch, it's like he doesn't care. He'll go a week or two without even touching it. Then he'll remember he has it, right?
mm,
And so to me, like I'm observing what I would consider a healthy relationship with a device of entertainment,
mm.
right? The TV is likely more of a problem than that Switch right now. But as he gets older, as he wants to spend more time in his room, as he's making more choices in that way, we just have to talk about what it really is and what life is. I was a video game player, dude. When I grew up, there was a game called Tribes 2. It was a random first person shooter on a computer on a PC that was like before Halo. I was hopelessly addicted to that between the ages of like 13 and 15. I say hopelessly, I mean like 6, 7 hours a day at least, nonstop playing that game. I was at school. I was doodling Tribes 2 stuff. Like, just wanted to go home. Tribes 2 they were like one of those games that had like, you would create a tribe and you'd have like 20 strangers that like you're in a tribe with.
Yeah, you're looking for that brotherhood, man, you know?
Yeah. That's not even fun. I've never thought, yeah, at 14, I was already looking for the Saturday Night Brotherhood. But you would go and you'd get in these chat rooms, and I was part of a tribe called the Bloodthirsty Wolves, and we would get online at a
Go
specific
massacre
time
people.
together, and we would like chat. We would talk strategy and all these different levels, and then we would go, create a private server and we'd practice. Like it was like a whole thing. Um, but I was at 14 wildly addicted to that, so I know what it's like to have that draw, that addiction to those video games. And I can't protect my kid from every arrow associated with that, but at least passing on a couple lessons learned and a perspective. That's the best we can do as parents right now.
Yeah, I think you just have to come about it and just look at the realities of life, right? Like, and approach it in a healthy, responsible way. It is the best thing you can do because, to your point, right? If I just try to protect my kids and don't let them have anything, right, they're going to rebel at a certain period in time. And so, like, I think you just have to have a healthy relationship with the technology that we have, and frankly, like with alcohol, with any type of vices that they're probably going to get into at some point in time. So like, how do I get out in front of that? How do I have that honest conversation with them? Don't lie to them, right? Tell them the realities about it. And I'll never forget my mother. She's a little bit of a hippie. I remember asking her, I may have been like 12, 13, just like, hey, why do people do drugs? And she told me, she goes, because it makes you feel awesome. Like she could have like, like
Yeah.
gone the entire different direction on that, right? But she's going to be honest with me of like why people do it, right? She's like, it feels great the first few times you do it. But then you get addicted to it, and here's kind of the negative side of it. So I think just having that that honest, open discussion with your kids and trying to guide them in the right direction and having the right intention about it is really all you can do, as a parent.
Well, the drug conversation is hilarious in our house because it's like, hey, in general, if it's a powder, if you've got to smoke it, shoot it into your body with a needle, um, or snort it,
Yeah, probably no,
probably
no.
stay, probably stay away from. In general, there might be one exception there as you get older, but for the most part, like just stay the hell away from it, right? Like what's the end game? Like if you can think about the end game. So I start doing this today and what? Am I looking for one unit of pleasure in the short run
Mm,
and then I'm able to divorce myself from that experience and move on with my life? Or do I keep, pulling that slot handle over and over again because that's how I get my dopamine hit? That's
hmm
okay. So now what I'm recognizing is the fact that I need dopamine. What are other healthier alternatives to feeling that way? I could exercise. Great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, it's oversimplified as we talk about it on a podcast, but we try to pass on the best knowledge that we can to our kids. And however off road I go on this conversation you and I are having, I think it just goes back to intentionality, right? I
hmm
mean, what I got out of the project, how I try to operate now with my wife and my kids is just being intentional with our time and just really thinking about long term. When I look back at it, was I more than just physically there?
mm
And did I moderate myself in a way where I'm in the Goldilocks zone, right? Like I'm not overbearing. I'm not trying to control every move that this person makes, that my child makes in their life. I'm not trying to like force my hands so that they're wishing I was less involved, but I'm there enough that they know they can always rely on me, that I'm always there for them, that I can provide the right advice at the right time. And I think about what it means to them and what it must be to be them. Man, when you really sit down and think about looking at the world through your kids' eyes, that's a weird thing. Like I put myself in my kids this was God, it must have been in November. Because I remembered my dad, my birthday's November 1st. I remember when it was my dad's birthday, how excited I was that it was my dad's birthday. I just was like, it's dad's birthday. Like, that's a really cool thing. It's his day. Like, I love my birthdays as a kid. My dad has his birthday. My dad was always he'd always like, it's just another
Yeah.
day. Just play it off. And I do that. I do that. My kids are so excited for me. And I'm like, oh, it's just another day. And then I put myself in my kids' shoes and I'm like, man, what that must sound like.
Yeah.
Oh, they're gonna remember. It's like, oh, my dad just didn't get excited about his birthday. Okay, listen, it's just another day. I get it. But like what you know, to allow them to love you, to show up for you, to give you gifts, and then to be excited back that they cared for
hmm
you in that way, and how you show up in that moment, that's what they remember. And that's what you'll always remember. And that's what I forget. I like look at the card and I'm like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
But like and I'm
Yeah, that's
like,
everything to them.
that's everything to them. And like this last birthday, I was like, God, I showed up like 50%. I showed up for my own birthday with my own kids like 50%. How many times are they going to be in this house for my birthdays? I got 8 more with my son. I got 10 more with my daughter, maybe. Right. And I'm willing to just let them slip because because I want to be a little more stoic about my birthday. Come on, man. Get excited, have the fun, like make the memory, like be intentional. Um, and like I said, I still struggle with some of those things. I think we all do. It's hard to be present every moment, to be in a flow state of parenthood every moment, but reflect, orient to it, come up with a countermeasure and implement it in your life, man. It comes with just about everything that you guys do in the military. And I think, certainly, the way that a healthy, self-reflective person would operate.
Yeah, well, Jay, what's on deck for you, man? What's excuse
Oh,
me, what do we have coming on the pike?
oh, we got good things. Jake Blanchard podcast is back up and running. I took a 6-month break to find myself. Yeah, again, I started the podcast to talk a little bit more about technology and thoughtfully folding technology into our lives. Hence the logo, hence some of the guests. If you look through, I've a lot of technologists and scientist type people, but I kind of got away from that for a while, and I was having conversations that I wasn't showing up fully for, just to be completely honest. Sorry to any guests that came on and didn't feel like I was showing up fully. I think it showed well in the show, but like inside I was like, God, this is not what I want to do right now. I reinvigorated. I'm rocking and rolling, podcast back up and running. My consulting firm's doing well right now, man. I'm really enjoying that. I've got a couple of deals in the pipe, and looking forward to being able to staff some folks out on some interesting projects here in Idaho. So Delta Perspective Consulting, deltaplife.com. Check me out if you've got something going on in your business strategy or project management ecosystem that you need some support on. And then, it's sports season for me coming up. My son is just stud little lacrosse player, which is fun to see, dude. He's 10, right? So like this might not be his thing long term, but he's self-motivated. He wakes up, he shows up for it. He's always got that stick in his hand. He's watching videos, and like he just really enjoys it. It is so fun to watch when your kids are self-motivated and are trying to get better at something, like that, actively trying to like work on shooting mechanics and dodging and all the things that they do. So like I've got plenty of lacrosse games for my son, and my daughter as well, a phenomenal little dancer, 8 years old, loves her competition dance teams and doing the crafts and arts. So that's what we'll be doing this afternoon. I'll be passing the ball with my son, and then my daughter's going to teach me how to make bracelets this afternoon. Right. And then for my wife and I, man, we just celebrated 20 years together, sneaking up on 15 years of marriage. And I think we're in the best stride that we've ever been in. This takes about takes about 10 years or so to get an education on who a person really is. I'm so happy that my life is with her, and that we've built this really cool thing together. But our family intention this year is to be outside.
Mhm.
So last year was our year of adventure. So we set a theme every year. So we took a trip about every 4 to 6 weeks, basically out of state. We went somewhere, whether it be Arizona, Washington, Oregon, like California. We were just, let's go somewhere. Let's do something. Let's have fun, throw the dart, go and get it. And now this year it's like, how much of Idaho can we enjoy being outside, and how much
Yeah.
sun can we take in, and how far can we get into the family? So that's what I'm excited for, man. That, those pillars we talked about earlier. Um, I wouldn't say they're optimized, but I'm trending up and to the right
Yeah.
in life,
Good.
and that feels good.
Good, man. Yeah, I think there's seasons, to life, and we've got to have good perspective on that. And I get jealous sometimes, right, of guys that have older kids, of like, oh man, just taking off and adventuring, and I'm like, well, shit, we got to pack a diaper bag still, and all, all that
Ah,
stuff. And but
awful.
I'm just trying to enjoy the season that I'm in,
How, how old are yours again?
So I've got two girls, 7 and 5, and then my son will be 2 in March.
Yeah. No, you're in it, dude. You're in it for a
Yeah,
while.
in the thick of it, man. And I'm just trying to enjoy it, like there are things that like perfect example, 2 nights ago, my son just decided not to sleep. I don't know why. But he woke up at about 11 and finally went down to sleep around 4:30 in the morning. Just screaming, hollering, wanting to be rocked. And here I am getting upset, getting frustrated, wanting to go to the gym in the morning. Now that's not going to happen. And, getting upset. But about 3:30 in the morning, I finally just said, all right, fuck it, whatever, he's up. So went and got him and just had to put him in the bath, and just had a fun time with him in the bath. And he's being cheerful and playing, and I'm just thinking the whole time, like, this is ridiculous. It's 3:30 in the morning. Like, what are we doing? But like, let's have fun with it. And I think it's just trying to have that perspective of like, there's gonna be peaks and valleys, and you're gonna have different focus areas depending upon what's going in life. We have these 4 pillars, kind of similar to Bedros, what he has with the 4 F bombs, but we have body, relationships, mind, and finances. And like the relationship pillar for me is elevated right now, right? Because my kids need a lot of time from me. They need a lot of investments. And I know that's not always going to be the case, once they grow up a little bit and start to hang out with their peer group And that time that I have right now is going to be gone, so
Yeah.
just trying to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's so funny that the way that you just framed that, which was, this area, this pillar of my life needs more time and attention. It's funny when you don't recognize that, because that's typically how I get out of balance,
Mm.
is I don't contemplate, my anchors and say, okay, like what's coming up? I'm about to be in a lot of sports schedule for my kids, right? Basically every weekend, starting March 9th all the way to the end of May, it's something, right? We're either traveling for sports or have sports on the weekend. We've got practices. My daughter Mondays and Wednesdays, my son Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like it's just
Yeah.
stop, right? My family needs that time right now. They need me to adjust my schedule. They need me to be there. I got to be the taxi driver. I need to be the support unit. I need to throttle back other areas of my life. Historically, when I don't think about that and it just treat those months coming up like I just have to keep doing everything that I'm doing
And then
and
add that
add
on.
this
Yeah.
on, that tax, that energy tax that comes with adjusting to a new pattern of life associated with your family. That's what'll get you out of balance. That's
Mm.
where you'll start making those unintentional lies to yourself, where you're like, okay, well, I can't go to the gym today. Great. Oh, I can't go to the gym today. Great. So, for you, it hits you once, you get some sleep. The next day you go to the gym, right?
Mm.
But for some people, you just start, oh man, I haven't been to the gym in 2 weeks
Yep.
because of my son's lacrosse. Bullshit.
Mm.
Bullshit. You haven't been to the gym for 2 weeks because life hit you in a different way. You didn't take a step back. You didn't reorganize your shit, prioritize what was important. Right. And so, like, that's for me, the biggest takeaway is what you just said right there of like, right now, my family needs X. If you can lead with that, if you can lead with that sentence and then build around it,
Mm.
oh my God,
Mm.
it's the absolute best.
Yeah. Well, dude, I have really enjoyed this conversation. Man, I love catching up with you.
Yeah.
Well, you listed off a couple things. What's the best place that people want to reach out and just send you a message?
Oh man. Yeah, let's do it at you can go to jakeblanchard.com.
Okay.
I've got a contact form there as well. You can just kind of reach out to me. My email's on that website, jake@deltapetelife.com. You can hit me up. Yeah, that's probably best. Go check out the Jake Blanchard podcast. I got some great conversations out there with folks like
Mhm.
Drew, Bedros, and a bunch of other people that we kind of brought up here on the podcast today. And yeah, reach out, man. Find me on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram, mostly because it's all the pictures that it's all pictures for the most part, and people aspiring to be better. Though some of those are unreasonable. It's better than LinkedIn and Facebook for me. So find me on LinkedIn, Jake in Blanchard.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you for coming on, man. I'm sure you guys got a lot of value. Hopefully, you had a notebook and some paper out. If you didn't, go back and rewind when you got some and pull out some of these nuggets from Jake. But thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Drew, I'm a huge fan of you, man, and I love everything that you're doing. I love this whole epic dad intention. I think we need so much more of this in the world. And thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, if you got value from this episode, two things: drop down, hit a review, leave us a comment, whatever. That's going to help us kind of boost up, right, and let more people hear about this message, which is super important. And then two, I say it at the end of every show, but you never know what a dad in your peer group is going through. We fight these kind of silent battles and don't want to talk about it. And so, what my ask is for you to share this episode, right? If you got value from it, to share it with another dad in your network, because it might be, what they need to take stock, take inventory of where they're at right now and start making positive changes. So those two things, leave us a rating and review, and then share this with one dad in your network. And Jake, thank you again for coming on, man. Really enjoyed having you on the show. And guys, we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the show and supporting our mission to change the culture by creating more epic dads. If this message resonates with you and you're ready to start becoming the husband, father, and man that you were called to be, I'd like to invite you to do two things. The first is to join our free online community called the Epic Dad Crew. Inside the crew, you will get access to resources, workout programs, courses, community,
everything you need to start leveling up as a dad. We are not meant to be lone wolves. We are meant to be part of a tribe, surrounded by men that will challenge us and hold us accountable to living as our best selves. So hit the link in the description of this episode and join the Epic Dad crew today. And if you are ready to accelerate your results and create massive change in your life, I'd like to invite you to join our 90-day Epic Dad Accelerator. Our goal with the accelerator is to help you create an unshakable foundation as a husband and a father, build unstoppable discipline and habits, get into incredible shape with a custom workout and nutrition plan, and provide massive accountability to becoming the type of man you want to become. If you are ready to radically change your life as a father in just 90 days, hit the link in the description of the show to learn more and see if the accelerator is a good fit for you. Thanks for listening. Now go be epic.